to Stand Up for Doctors. I'm your host, Kim Downey. Thank you very much for joining us. This channel is dedicated to amplifying the voices of doctors, other healthcare professionals, and patients as they share their unique struggles, triumphs, and passions. My mission is to build connection and create advocacy for healthy doctors, driving positive change that benefits both doctors and patients. This is a space for everyone who cares about the future of healthcare. If you appreciate this content, please like and subscribe now. It really helps the episodes reach our target audience. And today I am thrilled to welcome Betsy Gall and welcome back Pamela Marie Hobby. Thanks for joining us today, Betsy and Pamela.
Thanks for having us, Kim. It's so exciting to
Thank
see you.
Yeah, I'm so excited too. And by way of a very brief introduction, Betsy Gall is a real estate agent, author of the book The Illusion of the Perfect Profession, and an ambassador for the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation. And Pamela Marie Hobby is an actor, speaker, CEO of My Doctor Meds, and also an ambassador for the Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation, as am I. So that's something that the three of us have in common. And today we'll be talking about how the two of you, and actually all three of us, connected because of tragedy. Though you're each making a tremendous positive impact in the world, and we'll have you share how you're moving forward in supporting doctors, which, as we know, supports patients too, because everyone wins when physicians are well. So I start by asking what you'd most like our audience to know about you as we begin our conversation. Feel free to include hobbies, anything you want. Betsy, would you like to go first?
Oh, gee. Well, of course, I'll go first. Betsy Gall. I am an active real estate agent, investor, and most recently an author. I published a book called The Illusion of the Perfect Profession after my oncologist husband of 20 years took his own life on Thanksgiving Day of 2019. Um, I share our story to help other families feel not so alone and hopefully advance the conversation so that what happened to our family doesn't happen to another. I have 3 kids and a dog. Well, actually, I have 5 kids because I just got remarried. So we have 5 kids and a golden retriever, and I live in the Charlotte area and split our time between South Carolina, North Carolina, and Minnesota. So that's me in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for sharing, Betsy, and congratulations, on all of that. And I should add that we all collaborated, the three of us, on a Kevin MD article, and we titled it Voices for Physician Mental Health, and that was already a year and a half ago. That
My
was
God.
April of
Yeah.
2024. And we did a Kevin MD podcast, so I thought it was about time, Betsy, that you were on Stand Up for Doctor. So I'm
That's so
glad that we made
nice.
that happen. And Pamela, what would you like to us to know about you?
Well, hello. I'm so happy to be here and connecting today. You know, as a childhood cancer survivor, I'm deeply aware of the burdens that providers bear. I lived in the hospital on and off from age 2 to 5. And so I had an experience in 2019 where I realized we must be doing more for physicians and clinicians, and we must reinsert that fulfilling part for them and the work that they do. And my husband and I are currently developing a documentary series called My Doctor's Meds, which is so exciting. We have Dr. Jenna Arnold, who's a neonatologist and pediatrician at Boston Children's. She's attached to the project. We're in development phase, which means we're in the funding phase. We have a teaser trailer that I'll make sure that your audience knows about. And we reunite patients with the doctors and nurses that saved their life. And I recently got to live this year, which we can talk more about later. I recently got to reunite with the 94-year-old oncologist that saved my life. And my parents went to go visit him. He came to visit us. It was just so surreal. So outside of the documentary series called My Doctor's Meds, my husband and I have 2 little kids, a 2 and a 4-year-old, Buster and Honey, and they keep us busy for sure. Outside of that, we just recently relocated from Los Angeles back to my hometown of Yukon, Oklahoma, home of Garth Brooks and Pamela Marie Hobby. That's me. And I'm loving the seasons again. I'm loving seeing clouds again. I didn't know that I loved throwing parties, but we're like hosting some gatherings, and I just absolutely love to be a little social chef. So that's been a most recent thing, and life is good. Life is really good.
Well, that's awesome. And I realize, Betsy, I don't have your book to hold up because you graciously sent it to me. But then, as you know, I forwarded it to, thank you, to my doctor's wife,
Oh,
which is
yes,
why I
gross.
don't have a copy. So we'll have you start the conversation because it's obviously a horrible tragedy and how you and I have connected. So anything more that you want our audience and doctors and families to know?
Well, I just, that's a big question, and there's so much information out there. But as the spouse of a physician, early on, I was just unaware of all of the stress that our providers are under. And I would just like the general public to be aware there are certain small things that you can do, very small things that you can do to help our doctors. And I always tell people just to thank our doctors. And you could bring, gift cards, small tokens of your appreciation when you go into the office because they have such a stressful day. And um, that's when I was so amazed when I met Pamela that she has dedicated a portion of her life to giving back to the doctors that saved her life. So I still, struggle with the fact that my husband went to work every day to save lives and that it got so bad that he ended up taking his own. I don't think that that's something that people are aware of, that we lose over 400 doctors a year to suicide, and that's equivalent to a whole entire med school class. And if you think about that, it's really alarming. So I think we just have to keep talking about this dark subject in order for change to come about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, my mission is, to build connection and create advocacy for healthy doctors and normalize these conversations. And I did have a big campaign this past March for Doctors Day for people to send a thank you, to their doctor. And even I says, even if you are a doctor, because like a colleague, like it would mean so much to get a note or a word of thanks from a colleague. And I love it that people have shared with me that they have sent their doctors thank you notes. Actually, just yesterday, someone from my church shared a story about she had a knee injury and she showed up with a walking stick to her doctor. And she's like, "You see this? This is a hiking stick, and I want to get back to hiking."
Oh,
So he performed surgery and she has gone on some amazing hikes. So she said because of me that she just thought, and this is, I think, even a few years later, that she sent her doctor a thank you note. So anytime is a good time to thank a doctor. So thanks, Betsy.
awesome story.
And Pamela, would you like to share a little more of your story?
Oh, I still think back of the day that I talked to Betsy Gall for the first time, and she shared with me that there was a box of thank you notes from patients. And I told her, I said, when you think of me, think of that box of thank you notes, because what gratitude can do for all of us and the boost that it gives us. And I was just literally on LinkedIn, Kim Downey, how this all kind of come, the gratitude of all of us being connected. There was someone that watched our previous episode and they wrote this wonderful LinkedIn message directly to me. And I revisited it probably a couple of weeks ago, just because I was having one of those days of, we're persisting until we succeed for the show. And it gave me, just filled my heart of the things that, that we can do when we really just reinsert a thank you and take the time to do it. It's incredible.
Yeah, well, that's beautifully said. And Betsy, you've gone through such hard, challenging times that no one should ever have to go through. And you are moving forward. Obviously, it's not something, and we would hate it to use the words like getting over, right? It's not something you can or should ever get over. You're still alive. You have three kids, right? You've gotten remarried. So for some people who are struggling, whether it's another family member or even a patient, right, or doctors have lost colleagues, what would you say? What's helped you move forward during these really hard times?
Yeah, well, I write a lot in my book about my faith because that's really what has carried me through. You know, I had a high school on again, off again, and throughout college boyfriend that was killed tragically in a car accident when he was 21 years old. And a pivotal moment in my life was when my mom and I went back after the funeral was over, and we went back to the grave site, and I was just standing there sobbing. And she said, "You know, you really only have two things in this life, Betsy. You have your faith and you have yourself, and you can lose everything else." And I went back to that a lot of times because it's really, really true. Everybody in this world is going to lose somebody at some point. Grief is really, really hard. And you're exactly right. You never get over it, but you do move forward. And that's what we're called to do. I don't think Matthew would want me to, lie in bed all day crying. That's just not what the purpose of my life is. So there are so many little things that you can do, but for me, it really was leaning in on my grief, and my faith and journaling and I exercise a lot and I get out there and really talking to people. So you need a good therapist or, a good friend, somebody that can help. But it's a long process. It's not a linear process. There's good days and bad. But you just every morning, for me, I take a deep breath. I thank God for air in my lungs and the ability that I get up and live another day.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Pamela, what has helped you move through challenging times? Obviously, you were quite young when you had your medical challenges.
I every year I go for checkups, right? And I got really used to being in lab work and going every year. And it wasn't until I started working on this show, and Kim, we share something in common. I didn't realize that a doctor died to suicide. I didn't know that. And then I realized I could do more outside of the system than within, and I started I never really talked about my story because it was something that was in a distant past. And recently, well, since we started the process of the show, I've recognized that I really had to unearth some of the things that I had gone through, that my family had gone through, some of the guilt that I didn't know that I had of maybe my mom being at the hospital and my brother and sister, not having their sister or their mom at times or their dad at times, and what that does to a family structure, what it does to ripple out effect for grandparents. And it's not just the patient and the doctor that go through this. Families, these are lived experiences of families. And I think going through old pictures and having conversations and talking about some of the things really helped unburden, I think, my parents a little bit. It helped unburden me. I started telling stories that I'd never told to my husband. And all of a sudden, I had things, and I had lived, basically, I had this well inside of me that I realized could help another. And I don't think that I would have recognized that until I ran into a pediatric resident that was seeming to lose all hope. And it wasn't until then that the calling hit my life. It changed the trajectory of my life. And that pediatric resident just couldn't believe that I was a vibrant adult from a sick child. And so looking through old pictures, having these kinds of conversations, and then just living through what I lived through in February when I reunited with the 94-year-old oncologist that saved my life. I looked at his wife and I said, does he get these thank yous all the time? He must get these all the time. I mean, this is a storied oncologist. And she said, no, never. And she was just like hugging on me. And my parents went to go visit them in Wisconsin. When I tell you, this isn't just down the street. My parents went from Oklahoma to Wisconsin to now have this bond, this connection, this connectivity, because sometimes we have to take this outside of the clinics, outside of the walls of the hospital. And because of HIPAA, patients have to do this. We have to reach out. We have to remind ourselves that we can do something to refill these cups. And so just from the sheer fact, it's so crazy how all of this works. My mom and dad have a best friend that they call J-Lo. His name's Jim Lopez, but he goes by J-Lo, which is fabulous.
A different J-Lo.
A different J-Lo. And he was driving a bus for a charity, and the man that owns the does the charity was on the bus, and he randomly spoke of my story because my parents had shared some of the things that I was working on with him. And this is how it all came together in February. My mom comes and says, "Sit down. You're going to have to call this guy because he might know a way to get to Dr. Nitschke." And I said, "What? This is a big deal." Lo and behold, an email sent, I think on a Thursday. On a Friday, we found out that Dr. Nitschke was flying into Oklahoma on a Wednesday. And the Wednesday, I met him at the hospital that saved my life. And his wife was there, who I'd never met. And she said something that was so profound. She said, "I have two sons." And he just went to work. And I took care of the home. And he worked so hard that there were days that he would fall asleep on his stethoscope, or he would be in his study learning, because he never stopped learning. He knew that if he saw something, it could save a life. So he just would read and read and read. And hearing the humanity of a wife, knowing that it's just what he did, he went to work. And then to see a full circle moment 35 years later of this, it was just as fulfilling to her seeing her husband's life's work as it was to the both of us. And you know what he said? When I gave him a hug, I said, "Thank you for saving my life." And he said, "I was just the instrument." And he just said, "I was just the instrument." So these kinds of stories, these kinds of regular Marvel superheroes, we have to showcase this, and we have to help people be more aware that there's a cultural shift that's changing. I was like Betsy. I didn't know that a doctor a day died by suicide. I had no idea. And then I thought, who's helping them? If not me, if not the three of us with all of our solutions, we have to focus on the solutions. We have to move policy, and it's not going to be just one thing.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, I have so much that I could say to all of that. And one thing is, I too had initially wanted to work within the system to help my own doctors, and it was other doctors that were telling me they thought I was meant to make a bigger impact and I could make a bigger impact outside the system. And I didn't want to hear that. I just wanted to help my own doctors. But that's exactly what's happening now. And as you know, my first book is called White Coats, Courageous Hearts. It's a series, and the second book we have almost all the chapters in, and that one's going to be called White Coats, Human Hearts. And the first book is the stories of 15 physicians. This book you'll love to know. Well, actually, Pamela, could you wrote one of the chapters. It's 11 physicians, two spouses of physicians, and two patients, one of which is Pamela. So yeah, so that I'm so excited, and that should be coming out in the new year. So that's going to be really exciting. And Betsy, if there's anything that Pamela said that you want to add to, and also to honor Matthew, if you would like to just say anything, but tell us a little about Matthew.
Oh, well, I do have a fun story that I actually just found out about, and this is the power of the internet and social media. So I was at the Georgia football game. My son goes to UGA, and I DM'd Lady Spine Doc. And I tell people, if you don't know her, you should. And if you don't follow her, you should. She has 1.2 million Instagram followers, and she shares her life as an entrepreneur, a mom, and a neurosurgeon of all things, which we don't have very many women neurosurgeons. So that alone is pretty cool. So I'm at the Georgia game. I DM'd her to see if she was there. She DM'd me back and told me where she was sitting. And I ran over and gave her a hug because she has posted before about physician suicide and just the realities of her residency program and how difficult it was. And she just, she puts it all out there. So, I went up, hugged her. I said, "My name is Betsy." Her name is Betsy. I said, "I'm a Betsy too." And we hugged, and I told her real briefly about our story. And she asked me to send her a book, and I sent it. And a week later, she did a post about my book and our meeting. And that has been viewed by over 1 million people.
Mm.
And one of the best things that came out of that was a story from somebody that worked with Matthew that I had never heard before. That Matthew really was in the mood for a shamrock shake, but of course he did not have any time to get one because he was booked solid. So he sent this girl Mia, I don't even know what she did, out, and he bought everybody in the office and all the patients in the waiting room, they bought 38 shamrock shakes. So that was a really sweet story. And I would have never heard it, if I had not, gotten it in these comments. I mean, with thousands and thousands of comments after her post. So that kind of summarizes the type of guy Matt was. He was funny and he loved food. So it makes
I
perfect sense.
I love that. And I think grilling, right? I think I remember you shared, I've seen a picture of him grilling.
Oh, and he loved to grill, and yeah, he loved his kids. So it's kind of a hard time of year for us because it happened on Thanksgiving Day as we approach, Thanksgiving. We just can't help but remember him and feel, that heavy loss of his presence. But we talk about him all the time, and he was a really good doctor that loved his patients so much. And so I'm sad for all of them because they lost a really good doctor in addition to just he was a wonderful human being. So
Well, of course, this is making me tear up
I
because
know, me too.
obviously we're doing this, because my own doctor took his life and he was an incredible physician. And
Yep,
yeah, so, but maybe it's okay because, you know, it is sad, it is horrible, it never should happen. And it is okay to be emotional about it, right?
for sure.
Because
Yeah,
we're human.
we're human, and that's part of the grief process. It never goes away. So
Yeah,
Never
right.
like I was just thinking about you, Betsy, there's the in Castaway when Tom Hanks, they asked Tom Hanks what made you, get up every day, and he says tomorrow the sun will rise. And
mhm.
I think about the widows that you've helped, but then the people that you've helped through your speeches and the people that touch your book, and well, me obviously, and Downey and Kim Downey through this grief, how you are doing more outside of the system than within and reaching so many people. I mean, so many people know who you are and know that this YouTube channel exists and that your books are going to touch people and that it's okay that the grief exists there, but you're not just not doing anything about it. You're tilting the world towards good. So I'm so grateful to have both of you in my life. I was just thinking about that today, obviously, but
Well, you guys are wonderful, and this is one thing that really surprised me about writing a book. You don't, I mean, when you're writing a book, you're concentrating on the book and getting it out there, and then all of a sudden, I was like, wow. I mean, these are my journals. I'm really vulnerable. This is really who I am. But I never really thought about it afterwards and the people that I would get to meet because of the book. And that's just been so joyful. And so there's just so many wonderful people. That's really been super fun for me. So, I mean, I'm just grateful.
Well, and then it's beautiful too that I've connected you with, my doctor's wife Rose, and that we've had a conversation, and that Dr. Tony Avellino, who's a pediatric neurosurgeon who was in the process of taking his own life and reversed it, and I had him on my YouTube channel. We collaborated on a Kevin MD article, and he wanted to call it "A Patient Reached Out to a Doctor," and they helped each other heal. So we did that almost 2 years ago, and we did a podcast, and he has a chapter in the book, and we share that sometimes beautiful things can rise from the ashes of the saddest of things, and what all of us are doing is examples of that.
That's true. Finding purpose in the pain. It's important.
Hmm. And Betsy, are you still traveling around the country a bit? Let us know what these days, because I'm sure it might ebb and flow in your own life, like times where you're getting the message out, you might be speaking about the book, but then there might be other times where you feel that you need to focus a little more inward or focus on your family. So what are you doing these days?
Yeah, I was out in Reno, Nevada. I think that was in September, and that was my last public speaking event for the year. And November tends to it just comes on kind of heavy. So I know I need to practice a lot of self-care and self-love, especially for my kids too. Even though my three are in college and Randy's two are finished with college, it's amazing how much the kids still need you. So with five, they take up a lot of our time, and we love having the family around. So for the rest of this year, I've been on I was on a couple podcasts last week, and just kind of wrapping up the year, and then kind of thinking about what I'm going to do next year, and working a couple things out. So we'll see where that goes.
Hmm. Well, that sounds great. Pamela, did you want to share any more about what's up and coming for you?
Follow us on At My Doctor's Meds, where we have all 8 of our first season families, which is so exciting. We met our pilot episode, and it's just so touching. When you make something that's in the documentary space, you just don't know what you're going to find. It's those Shamrock Shake stories. It's those things and those beautiful moments of humanity that is taking us by surprise. So for the remainder of the year, we're still meeting. We're taking meetings for the next 3 weeks. We're going to have a group investor meeting of, if anyone is out there that loves this idea, we have benchmarks for investors for season 1 itself, even just for the pilot episode. If you're a production company and this speaks to you as well, we just had a really great meeting last week. And so it's just full momentum to get it made. And I know that I'll be back on maybe and talking about how we filmed it, and it's a huge global success. And so one of the things that was asked in the last meeting is that what's your North Star? And I said that this documentary series reaches the most amount of people possible because it could start a conversation that helps someone.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful, and it's so exciting that you'll be doing that. And we wish you all the best of luck as you continue. And in the show notes, we'll also put any links, so you can send me any links that for both of you where people can reach out to you. And of course, Betsy, the link to your book and all of that. Betsy, are there any more messages that you want to share, with the audience, speaking to doctors and patients and anyone?
I just encourage people to be kind, especially to our doctors. I mean, people don't like waiting, and wait times have gotten longer, and the pressure to see more patients in a shorter amount of time weighs on all of our physicians, and so I would just urge people to be kind.
Thank you. And we'll put them in the show notes, but how can our listeners get in touch with you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's just Betsy Gall, or on Facebook. And then my book is available on Amazon. You can just search Betsy Gall and it should pop up.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And Pamela, did you have any parting words that you wish to share?
Thank you so much, Kim Downey. Your voice is so needed, and I appreciate being on today. Our whole team thanks you. And yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to continue our conversations on and offline. So this is really wonderful. And I just want to thank you again for being my guest. And I always say in closing, to move the needle in healthcare, we all need to raise our voices and we all need to care about each other. We already know that doctors need to care about patients. Patients need to care about doctors too. So stand up, doctors, and let's stand up for doctors.